Hello and welcome everybody, I'm Proud Bavarian and this is the last episode of the first season in this world. Yes, that is right, we're going to continue playthroughs in this world, in this particular time frame, and in the scenario that we have created here, but not in the Messalian Kaiser Tuni. That much is clear. And before I jump in, I'm going to say something about, immersion and suspension of disbelief, because some people, not all, not even many honestly, but some people were very distraught about the idea of the First Crusade being called against the Byzantines. And I understand where you're coming from, but I'm telling you straight up, I think you're taking the roleplay not far enough. Because you are acting as though they were, very brotherly churches in this world, much like they were in real life, which they just weren't. The Byzantines were incredibly powerful, they weren't threatened, they weren't, in any sense needed to kind of ask the Catholics for help. Instead, they were incredibly powerful. The only land that the Byzantines have lost in the entire playthrough was this piece of land that I took from them. That was the entire land that they ever lost. They were incredibly powerful, and it is fairly easy, I think, and fairly believable to say, if they were this powerful, they would surely try to claim dominion and hegemony over Rome. And if they, at any point, which we don't know, because hey, look where we are. We don't interact with the Christians, with the Catholics of the West. But with that being said, if they were to try to push their idea of where the Pope should be, and let me tell you, it's not the head of the church, if they pushed those ideas, the Pope could treat them as actual enemies, of betrayers of the one true church, of the one true faith, of having strayed way too far to compare them to the old ways or to the, in real life ways of how they were seen. So I just want to make it clear, I don't think that the suspension of disbelief should suffer from this. If you were able to see the Children's Crusades leader go into the land of literally people born from incest worshipping Lucifer and not lose any of his followers or be excommunicated by the Pope, if you were able to suspend your disbelief for that, then I hope that you will be able to come around to the Byzantine solution there. Of course, I will tell you, I needed the Byzantines to dissolve at least partially. That was very important to me personally, but at the end of the day, I don't think it's that unrealistic if they actually exerted pressure and threatened invasion against the Pope. Pope could not accept that. In no way did he ever accept it from the HRE when the Kaisers over there tried to, assert dominance, nor would he accept it from the Byzantines. And historically speaking, some people pointed out, hey, a crusade for Egypt would actually be realistic because it's the backbone of the Arabic world, right? You need Egypt to be able to reclaim the Holy Land from the Crusaders. And of course, yeah, I know, the Crusaders, they tried numerous times to claim Egypt. But the thing is, and somebody, I think this phrasing actually came up, that Egypt is supposedly an easily conquerable land. They never conquered it. They tried it. Literally together with the Byzantines in full force and in full power, whereas the Fatimids at the time were during a succession crisis, with Saladin not having established his new power and his new regime over Egypt yet, and yet they lost. That is because it isn't that easy to conquer Egypt. The people that were defending Egypt knew Egypt. They knew what to do and how to go about defending it. In the game, of course, it would be incredibly easy, too easy, boringly easy if you ask me, to conquer Egypt, because that's just how the Crusades work here. But realistically speaking, the First Crusade, after they conquered Nicaea over here, they would go all the way down there, and over here they had 35,000 men. Then down there at Jerusalem, they would have 12,500. That is something that you as a Muslim could deal with, that even the AI could deal with. But just, the weapon of mass destruction that the Crusade practically is here would be entirely misplaced in Egypt, because it would be too easy. It's not that easy to take Egypt. It's a very strange sentiment to think that Egypt is as easy to take as some of you appear to be thinking that it is to take. So with that being said, look, if you were thrown off, if your immersion was gone because of the Crusade, my apologies, but that is the turn that the story took. It's not as nonsensical as few of you appear to believe, especially seeing as the Byzantines actually were very, very active in expanding into, deeper into Italy and surrounding the Pope, isolating him. It wasn't that easy to, or it wouldn't have been that easy to take Egypt either, especially because the Al-Ziri dynasty is Ismaili and incredibly powerful, and you gotta assume, even though there is no naval combat of course in this game, but you gotta assume that their navy could easily defend the entire coastline of Egypt. But with all that being said, look, today, this episode is mostly about story. There will be no real gameplay sections. This is just to wrap it up, to give us the end of the season and a new outcome and a new outlook for what we can do in the next season. But that is what we're here for. That is what I'm looking forward to. And let me tell you, it's all about our good old and beloved Kaiser Adelpheus, the Lion of Gilan. I mean, what a wonderful person he has been, right? He's achieved so much. He's created a true empire. He is now in the position to actually declare the Messalian patriarchy. But he has always been very frustrated, if you remember, about relying on others, about having to have others doom themselves for his salvation. He's always hated it, and it has made him desperate, if you think about it. It has made him extraordinarily desolate and desperate, because he hates the idea of not being the master of his own fate. And that is going to be the center, or in the center, of today's episode, of the end of the season. And so I say, I mean, let's just jump right in. You know, it's going to be an interesting one. Probably also a divisive one, but it leaves us to such an amazing startup for Season 2. I'm incredibly excited for it. So, let's just jump right in. As I said, the focus will be on him and his issues when it comes to the metaphysical sphere, when it comes to, you know, perfection, salvation, all of those things. So let's just head on out there and experience. Oh, Blessed has passed. Congratulations. Amazasp, the Apokopos. What? Apokopos. There you go. Oh yeah, he was a pretty good dude. I mean, look at him. That's really good. Nice. But yeah, this is not... There will be no game mechanics. Ab Eterno. Adelpheus had struggled with his mortality for most of his life. A struggle that had intensified and taken on the mantle of obsession ever since he learned of the burden his blood carried. What would any of his exploits, achievements, and great deeds mean if his soul shall be torn to shreds by the machinations that bound him to this physical prison? In recent months, as his age slowly caught up to him, he had begun cursing his ancestors. His desperation had grown so quickly that he knew no way forward, and thus looked back to those that brought him into this pitiful world. His mother Anna, his grandfather Symeon, and his great-grandmother Mary. Mary. Who was she to begin with? The honorable martyrs told him that Mary was eternal, and yet she perished. They've got some explaining to do, and he's right! It has never been pointed out why Mary was in the stage of, you know, essentially a coma. Why, despite being immortal, she passed. She did pass after Saint Anna touched her, if you remember. And Saint Anna learned, just by touch, what it meant to carry the blood. So there must be something more to this. They've got some explaining to. Let's ask the honorable martyrs. Resurgence. He despised the honorable martyrs with every fiber of his body. He, the Lion of Gilan, should have his soul's salvation depend on these meager servants? The thought alone disgusted him. And yet their blind service to their lord of the land was also an opportunity. The monastery, in which Symeon the devil had grown up in, had been under the administration of the martyrs for decades now, and with it, the secrets of Mary as well. My Kaiser, indeed. The Blessed Mary was eternal and outlived many of those who came before us. She perished by choice, for her line would fulfill a promise to humankind. Her blood, her power, her curse. Without it, the glorious days you achieved would have never been possible. Adelpheus understood. Perfection was denied to him, but immortality was in his reach. Unity brings strength. No, what does that mean? We will see it in events. I hope that I'll explain it after the events if it doesn't come across, but I hope so. That kind of is self-explanatory. Good job converting that. Thank you, dear Sister Satanic. Lady seems that nothing but bad about Ishkan Adelpheus. What an idiot. God, I hate him. Several tavern owners in Antioch have come forward to your court with complaints against Ishkan Hamazasp the Deaf. Apparently he has gone on drunken rampages in all of their establishments. Excuse me? Absolutely compensate him. Are you crazy? Ruling from your court has increased your sense of justice. Your judgments have a profound effect on the lives of your subjects, and you have decided to be more fair. Oh, that's really cool. I like it. E pluribus unum. And so it was that Kaiser Adelpheus called for a grand feast for all his relatives, unifying the family and bringing them closer once more. They travelled from far and wide, and even the Queen of Jerusalem and her children attended. All those carrying the blood of Mary would be in Adelpheus' halls to celebrate the achievements that this burdened family had to show for itself. It was said that the new head of the Messalian faithful would be declared the day after the feast in a great exercise of power in the capital of Iraq. It would be the great culmination of the work that the sons and daughters of Mary had done. The real highlight of this evening, however, was hidden from most. The blood would finally be unified again. Alright, this is my kind of situation. We're going to revoke the bishopric of Antioch. That is a person that is, I believe, Orthodox. Oh no, even worse, Paulician. Jesus, get out of here. I'm not going to convert you. Absolutely not. Give me the title. There is no other way. Thank you for the bishopric. Young Mahmoud has finished education. Alright, that's okay. That's okay. Mors tua vita mea. We have always stood as one. We resisted our enemies and built a new empire. An empire that shall never fall. An eternal source of salvation for all that seek it. Lucifer has blessed our house and shall bless our future. Tomorrow we will finally be able to institute a true hierarchy to the Messalian church. A leadership that shall neither bow nor kneel. I must thank all of you for following my invitation. It means more to me than you would ever know. The blades of the martyrs were as swift as they were deadly. Life faded by the second and the tables were painted in red. None had foreseen their fate. This was no fight. This was a sacrifice. And yet, I feel no different. But the idea is... Oh, stop the game, please. Stop the presses. Listen. Hey, game. The idea is that to kill everyone that carried the blood of Mary would unify it again, would stop diluting the power of it, and would make it so that they could then go on and actually have a single member of the family remain that would then be immortal. Kaiser Adelpheus recognized this because the weakening of Mary began as she started to spread her blood. Symeon's birth also marked the point at which she became comatose. Giving forth the knowledge of what the bloody curse was to Anna cost her life. And Kaiser Adelpheus now tries to unify all of the blood once more. Corruptio optimi pessima. Failure. Adelpheus saw the lifeless husks that once were his family. I don't know why this image is here, by the way. I tried this out. I can't get it to go away. That once were his family, and yet he did not feel the completion he sought. The answer to the many questions arising from the situation was quite simple. Alice. His servants hastily explained that there was no sign of his youngest niece. She had entered the castle in the afternoon, but unexpectedly appeared to not be present for the great feast. Her belongings nowhere to be found anymore either. Reportedly, the Bulgarian company's leaders left the capital in the early evening, merely 2 hours before the beginning of the great feast. Even worse, without the sacrifice, the ritual would not bear any result. Unless he could find Alice, all of this might have been for naught, and his doom would approach him with swiftness. He was certain. There was a survivor. Somebody that was rescued by the Bulgarian company. The Bulgarian company, of course, never being very zealous. Never even accepting Messalianism, really. More interested in protecting the family that was, well, carrying the blood of their family. The last Tsars of the Bulgarian Empire. And Duchess Alice of Kachin, she's not going to be a duchess for long, but she is the one that escaped, that got brought away by the company. Find her and the traitors. Well, well, well. Betrayed, after all, by the Bulgarian company. Super Omnia. Distraught by their lord's fiery rage and unable to quench it by finding the hidden niece far away from the capital, the honorable martyrs gathered around Adelpheus, fully ready to bring the ultimate sacrifice. We serve you now and forever. We are not the spawn of Lucifer, but the sacrifice of all those loyal to you should rival that of a single descendant of yours. Until now, our sacrifice was for perfection, Jesus. But now it shall be for eternity. The last hour of the martyrs had come. And all of the martyrs kill themselves. And very similarly to how they were able to give, perfection to those that had Mary's blood, they are also able to bind Mary's blood once more to Kaiser Adelpheus. He will now become immortal and possessed, as well as be known as the Eternal. My lord, let it be known that we stand with you now and for all of eternity. What has been done had to be done. Our flame will burn bright, and the sacrifice of those that came before us will never be in vain. Lead us to glory, my lord. Grandmaster Tamash of the army of Lucifer has just sworn fealty to the Kaiser Tuni, accepting who Kaiser Adelpheus is and what he has become. And what we shall do as immortals now is truly claim Messalian patriarchy, but the only one that deserves it. We have been renamed to Patriarch Yohanan, the Eternal. I will also castrate myself, and he will now eternally, for all of eternity, rule over the Messalian Kaiser Tuni. as he deserves. There you go. Wonderful. Persona non grata. Ellis had been informed that she was in grave danger, and following the commands of the small retinue that the Bulgarian guard had sent, as to not attract too much attention, was vital for her survival. Her father had drilled it into her that the Bulgarians were the one true ally she could trust, and so she did. Hours after they had left Iraq, it was revealed to her that the Kaiser had plotted against his own kin for several months, and that nowhere in his lands it would be safe for any surviving family members. As Alice was of little influence within the family structure, she had been the only safe bet that would not draw any attention if she were to disappear. While not even the commander of the small retinue, a man named Symeon, was certain what the Kaiser's intentions were, it was quite clear that there was no going back anymore. I must flee or perish. There you go. Absolutely wonderful. And let me just quickly fast forward just a tiny little bit. That's okay, don't worry about it. There you go, beautiful. So, we now have, and this is where Season 1 ends, we are now Duchess Alice of Kachin. Now that is just so that I can play for the moment. Patriarch Yohanan the Eternal, 58 years old and immortal, has gotten rid of all of his family, unified the blood, and then succeeded with another blood sacrifice of those that followed him. He is now the sole, immortal, and eternal ruler of all Messalians, and he shall remain here, whereas we are currently fleeing. Now you might ask, hey, but you're a duchess, aren't you? Well, in the next season, we will find out what this decision does. I'm incredibly excited for the next season, because we are going to change the scene. We are going to change everything about this playthrough. We are going to be in a position of weakness and in a position of having to achieve or fail forever. I'm very excited for it, and the eternal patriarchy of the Messalian Kaiser Tuni, I might even rename this a bit, you know, patriarchy or whatever, is going to bring something so wonderful that it will indeed bring salvation for many, but also terror for others. I will see you in the next season of this world. I hope that you enjoyed this one. We had some crazy stuff, some edgy stuff in there, but that is just how story writing goes. And I hope that I will see you again in season number 2, when we will find our luck and our destiny as Alice of House Hayk. Still, of course, carrying the blood of Mary and Bagrat. I will see you then. Have a good one. And later, alligator.